Hi and welcome back to the channel. I'm Steven from Kurogane Studio. Yesterday I had a parcel which just arrived from China. This one right here, as you can see, the courier right here is Chai Niao, literally vegetable bird in English. Yeah, that's the thing with Chinese brands and their weird names when you translate them literally to English. But anyways, this is a figure I purchased from a figure store in China. And the figure right here inside, this is a Kotobukiya 1/7 scale Saber Extra, or Narrow Claudius from Fit Extra, Fit Grand Order. And the best part about this purchase is that I paid only pop-up parade money for this figure right here, including shipping. So this thing, I'll put up the screen over here. This is from my Taobao app on my phone. Yeah. So Taobao is an e-commerce website in China, the largest one in fact. And you can buy a lot of stuff over there, figures included, both genuine and bootleg figures. This is a genuine one, of course. And according to this seller, this figure they're offering over here, this is brand new. And they're selling it for only less than $40 or so. The only catch is that there is no box. Yeah, you do get the plastic framework that holds the figure, but there's no box. But apparently the figure is brand new. So over here in my invoice, as you can see, in total, including shipping by air, yes, by air to Malaysia, the total cost of the figure is less than 300 Chinese yuan. So the amount over there, when you convert it to Malaysian ringgit, it is under 200 ringgit, 194 ringgit or so. That is $44. In Japanese yen, that is just under 6,000 yen, around 5,900 yen or so. So this is amazing value. You need to remember this is including shipping by air from China to Malaysia. So we shall open up this parcel and see what the contents are like. Is the seller being honest with the product? Like, is it brand new really? Or is this pre-owned? Or maybe a display unit. But even for a display unit in store, 6,000 yen including shipping, that is amazing value. Yeah. So without further ado, let's open up this parcel right here. Now that we are done unboxing this figure of Saber Extra Narrow Claudius from Kotobukiya, this is a very old figure. She came out back like 2015, 2012, I have no idea. This is a very old figure. Her official retail price back then was like 12,000 yen, but that was also the time when Japanese yen was a lot higher in terms of exchange rate compared to today. Yeah. So nonetheless, 6,000 yen for this thing, including shipping, is still exceptionally cheap. So what are the catches? Why is this figure so cheap? Now let's answer a few questions, right, before we move on. The first question over here, is this a genuine figure? Is this a bootleg? That is the most important part. The answer, based on what I'm looking at on this figure, yes, this is definitely a genuine figure. So we look at the paintwork and the sculpt of the face, yeah, that is definitely a Kotobukiya figure, because Kotobukiya, they almost never screw up the face of any figures they make. Even though I don't have very high opinions of their figures, when it comes to the refinement and the paintwork department, this is absolutely a genuine figure. You just look at the front of the outfit and the dress, yeah, that is genuine quality. The second question here would be, if this is indeed a genuine figure, is it actually brand new when the figure comes without any boxes to begin with? Not to mention the packaging materials for the protection of the figure were kind of questionable in some way. For example, these things were stuffed inside the box of this figure to protect the figure from damage during shipping, and from the looks of it, this looks like something you'll see in an old sofa or mattress or a bed. Hopefully not one from a brothel, you know? It doesn't smell weird at least, so probably this isn't from a used bed in a brothel, but this is still a very weird material to use for protection of any figure or any shipment, a creative one anyway. Okay, and the third thing has to do with the plastic framing that is holding the figure together. Alright. So there are a few clues over here, right? So the first thing is, normally with genuine figures, you'll see cellophane tape being used on the side of this plastic framework over here, not tapes like this. Secondly is that this plastic that is being used to wrap the figure, yeah, to prevent things like paint transfer and so on, this isn't out of Kotobukiya's factory or any genuine figure factory for the matter. This is something harder. It feels like industrial plastic to me. Like, yeah, those plastic bag kind of plastic or plastic wrapping you buy from a supermarket, you know? It feels like those kind of plastic to me, not one that is specifically used to wrap anime figures. This is the second clue over here. Right. And the third clue is this plastic framing over here. If you see very carefully, this is not completely transparent or colorless. Yeah, it is not completely colorless. It looks a bit yellowish. It has gone yellow. There are two very common reasons why a plastic like this would turn yellow. The first one is age. Yeah, several years has passed. This figure with this plastic framework is sitting inside the warehouse, inside the figure store for years already. Yeah, this would turn yellow like this. Number two is plasticizer, too much plasticizer. So every anime figure has plasticizer incorporated into the figure. It is a part of the PVC material, and the function of plasticizer is to maintain the flexibility of each part of the figure. Those PVC parts that are flexible like here, yeah. So over time, plasticizer will evaporate out from the figure. It is a natural process, you can't stop it. And since the figure is trapped inside this plastic framework, inside the box for a very long time, the plasticizer will settle around, yeah, the interior surface of this plastic framework over here, and it will make any material turn yellow. If the figure has a lot of white color paint, the white color paint will turn yellow over time. And for transparent parts like this, yeah, over here, yeah, they turn yellowish over time. And plastic like this, yeah, they turn yellowish over time. Very old figures, they have this problem, all because of plasticizer. So if you are the type who doesn't display your figure very often, you keep your figures locked up in their boxes to preserve them and to stop dust from damaging your figures, from settling on the surface of your figures, you still need to take your figures out from the boxes every once in a while to air out all this plasticizer that is trapped inside the box. Or this kind of yellowing will happen, yeah. So there are two possibilities over here. Number one is that this was a display unit in a shop, and it went unsold for many years, very long. So they just put the figure back in the plastic frame and sell it the way it is because they did not keep the box. They might even borrow the plastic frame from a bootleg figure. The figure is genuine, but they borrowed this plastic frame from a bootleg copy and then they sell it like this because this was a display unit and they got rid of the box already. However, if this figure was a display unit, this wouldn't be a brand new figure. This is a pre-owned figure, assuming this was a display unit, of course. So that would mean that the seller was not being honest. Let's assume the seller was being honest and this is indeed brand new because from the looks of it, this figure appears to be brand new. There are no signs of use at all. Like used figures, no matter how well taken care of, there will be a bit of dust particle being left behind on the surface of the figure, even if the owner cleaned the figure before putting her back into the box. So this figure does appear to be brand new. So what is going on? A figure that is brand new, yet the box, the packaging appeared old and used. What is going on over here? The answer is QC reject figures. Quality control reject. Yes, this might be something new to you. The biggest clue lies in the unboxing video itself, where I had a lot of trouble assembling this figure. Specifically, this waist region over here, they seem to be two separate parts and they don't fit very well. I had to use a lot of force and a lot of patience to put it in, to assemble it, and finally I managed to assemble it. This gold color part, I managed to get it in. But this is very unusual for a Kotobukiya figure because Kotobukiya is the kind of company where when you buy the figure, you take it out from the box, the whole figure is literally completed. You don't have much, if any, parts to assemble at all, not even the base. They like to glue their figures permanently to the base. This is no different. The figure is fixed to the base, you can't really remove it. So why would I need to assemble the waist region of this figure? It doesn't make any sense, right? And this gold color part was notoriously difficult to assemble it in. You see, it fell off again. This could only mean one thing. This is indeed a genuine figure, but this is also a quality reject, a QC reject from the factory, the genuine figure making factory, Kotobukiya. Yeah. They even gave me an extra spare part over here, as you can see, just in case I break this one, I assume. Very nice of the seller. This is something that no genuine figure brands will do it for you. There is no such thing as giving you spare parts of the very same part just in case you break something. I've never came across a genuine figure company that are that generous. And this ahoge over here for her head, yeah, it is also separate. I did not notice it earlier. These two parts, they were taped on the side of the box, yeah. So this is like 99.9% a QC reject figure from Kotobukiya's factory. And is there even such a thing as being able to buy figures, genuine figures that were rejected from the factory because of quality control issues? The answer is yes. You can do so in China. Now let me bring in more figures over here. We have this figure from Idol Master Cinderella Girls, also by Kotobukiya. I don't remember her name. This sleepy girl over here. She is always sleeping. Yeah, Futaba Anzu, I think. Futaba Anzu. And one more figure behind me. Alright, this is Amakuni's Astolfo from Fate Grand Order or Fate Apocrypha. What else do I have here? Yeah, I think that is about it. So, there are 3 figures here on my desk. And surprise, these 2 figures, this Kotobukiya Anzu and this Amakuni Astolfo, both of these are QC reject figures. This Futaba Anzu over here was around 22 or 23 US dollars, the price of a prize figure. And this Astolfo over here by Amakuni, this was less than 40 US dollars. Both arrived without any boxes. They just came in a cardboard box and they were wrapped in plastic with all their separate parts, and that is it. That is all you get. So with QC reject figures, what are the flaws? Let's explore them one by one. Alright. So the first thing is this Futaba Anzu over here, this one on my right. I could barely find any fault on the paintwork of this figure, so I'm not really sure what is actually wrong with this figure to be rejected by Kotobukiya's factory. This was a fairly low cost skill figure at that. They bothered to give me this extra faceplate as well, so this is actually a complete package other than not having any boxes. Just that the base looks a bit worn out. Maybe the problem is the base, but if the problem is the base, then you just give the figure a new base. But this Futaba Anzu over here, this is typical Kotobukiya quality in terms of paintwork, and I couldn't find any flaws on it. Maybe that is something that Kotobukiya knows that I don't, right? Okay, so this is a steal for 23 US dollars or so. Okay, now let's put this Anzu aside. The next one is this figure of Astolfo. This one actually had quite a bit of flaws going on. This figure was actually incomplete, right? So firstly, this figure of Astolfo, if you see very carefully, this armor part around his waist over here, yeah, you can see that the gold color paint is different from the rest of the figure. This gold on his sword, this gold around the chest armor over here is different from the one in front of his PP over here. Yeah, because this gold color part, when I received it, it was unpainted. It was metallic silver. It wasn't gold color. It is supposed to be around something like rose gold color, like the one you see around his chest over here, right? But this part was unpainted, and I took matters into my own hands. I painted the figure myself, but I used a different shade of gold color because I don't have this color, and that is what I ended up with. And the second thing with this figure is behind here on his cape, there are a lot of grey color scarves, scratches on the surface of the cape. So of course this is going to get rejected in a factory if it happens during production. But for these two flaws, unpainted armor in front and yeah, the scratches on the back of the figure, I got him for 40 US dollars or so. Would say that is not too bad of a purchase. I can still try to paint the figure if I wanted to, but I just left it aside. I just displayed the figure somewhere, yes. And lastly, this figure of Nero Claudius over here. So what are the problems with this figure? Because actually I could barely find any paint related problems on this figure. The sculpt was also fine, but yes, the reason why this figure got rejected from factory is because of the parts not fitting properly, right? So you see, I tried my very best to push the figure down, but up here you can see a seam line still being visible. Yeah, this kind of seam line, giant seam line, this is something you only see in price figures and completely unacceptable in a scale figure. So naturally, this figure is going to get QC rejected. And if I were to remove this top part of the figure, alright, we take a look at the outline of her underwear over here in front. Yes, in front here, look at the seam line over here between the white underwear and her torso, her body. Yeah, that seam line gap is too large. This is not good quality. So naturally, this figure is going to get QC rejected from the factory. Regarding this poor fitting part over here, where it is very difficult to push this upper torso all the way down, this is actually something you can fix on your own if you are willing to take a risk, and I think I'm willing to because this is a very cheap purchase to begin with. So you can actually sand off this pack bit by bit from every single direction until the part fits a lot more easily. And if you end up making the part too loose, the fitting too loose, then you can just use a bit of epoxy to fill in the gaps in between. So this is something very repairable, very fixable, and I'm looking forward to fixing this figure of Saber Extra and displaying her as usual on my shelf. The main reason why I purchased this Saber Extra for very cheap is because I have a photography idea for this specific figure and I'm unwilling to pay like 10,000 yen for this figure. So this is a very nice compromise. My main idea, my main goals of buying this is for photography. So somehow these QC reject figures, they find their way into some figure stores in China and they sell it as usual. Though they give you a very steep discount, a very big discount, If you like what you're looking at, they display a sample in store, and if you like what you're looking at, sure, you can have it for a very low price. And that is exactly what happened with this figure of Nero Claudius and these two other QC reject figures I have over here. This is something that is unique to China so far. I've not seen any other countries selling QC reject figures. And this isn't surprising because like 100% of scale figure companies out there, Japanese scale figure companies, their factories, their production lines are in China. So naturally, if something gets rejected, it is going to be available in the Chinese market. Sell this to collectors on a very low budget instead of tossing it out and creating more waste, right? It actually makes sense, but whether this is legal, like whether the companies, the figure sellers are doing this behind Kotobukiyas and every other figure company's backs, I have no idea. Yeah, whether this is legal, I'm not sure. But it is nice that there is an option to buy genuine figures at a fraction of the cost if you can accept the flaws. So in a way, this is a bit like buying a grade C figure from Ami pre-owned section. Yeah, think of it this way. The figure has a damage somehow, just that the damage is not inflicted by the user, the previous owner, but in the factory itself. So would you pay maybe 4,000 to 6,000 yen for a grade C figure from Ami or from China, like in this example over here? Please do let me know down in the comments below. And this isn't the end of this topic on QC reject figures. I actually have a second video coming up on this very topic in the future. It is still under planning, not coming very soon yet. So until then, what are your thoughts on this topic of buying QC reject but genuine figures from the Chinese figure market? They are genuine. Remember that they are genuine figures. But for 5,000, 6,000 yen, would you pick up something like this? Please do let me know down in the comments below. And thank you very much for watching all the way to the end. If you enjoyed content like this one today, please do consider giving this video a like and subscribing to this channel for more anime figure content in the future. Until then, see you guys very soon and goodbye.